Hi everybody, my name is Belinda and I'm going to talk about the Junior Minerals Exploration Incentive, or the JMEI. This is particularly timely given that applications for this scheme open on the 1st of June and they're assessed in order of receipt. As the pool of credits is limited, the junior explorers wishing to access the incentive will need to apply as soon as possible. The JMEI is designed to provide a tax offset to investors who invest in entities incurring greenfields exploration expenditure, and it effectively converts a mineral explorer's tax losses for the year into offsets that investors can apply against their personal income to reduce tax payable. So the benefits are therefore immediate and thus can encourage investment in exploration, as opposed to the ordinary situation where explorers need to wait until a profit is being generated before they can benefit from the carry forward losses they have. Entities who are not eligible to use the offsets include companies, trusts and partnerships. However, there are provisions which deem the credits to be issued to the underlying beneficiaries or the partners, which allow those individuals to make use of them. To generate exploration credits, an entity must be a greenfield mineral explorer, and to be a greenfield mineral explorer, the entity must incur greenfields mineral expenditure. It needs to be a constitutional corporation, that is a disclosing entity, and importantly, it can't have carried on mining operations on a mining property in either the current income year or the preceding income year. Greenfields minerals expenditure includes deductions for decline in value of assets, so that can include the immediate expensing deductions for assets which are used in exploration or prospecting for minerals, or amounts which are immediately deductible as exploration expenditure. So that would include expenditure incurred on items such as mapping, surveys and drilling. And also as a result of the recent full court decision in Shell Energy Holdings, it could also potentially include expenditure associated with feasibility studies and also determining commercial recoverability. The expenditure must be in relation to an area that is in Australia. The relevant entity must hold a mining, quarrying or prospecting right at the time of incurring the expenditure, and the area on which the expenditure is incurred must not have been identified as containing a mineral resource that is at least inferred in a report that's prepared in accordance with the Australian Exploration Code for reporting exploration results. So it's noted that the Commissioner can request an entity to prepare such a report in a year, so entities are unable to gain access to the incentive merely by deferring the preparation of such a report. Once the entity has assessed whether it's eligible for the incentive and it expects to raise capital in the forthcoming year, it needs to make an application to the Commissioner for an allocation of credits. As mentioned earlier, those applications open on the 1st of June and they end on the 30th of June 2022 for credits that will be issued in relation to the 30 June 2023 year. The application form requires the applicant to include an estimate of the greenfields expenditure that it will incur, the estimated tax loss for the 2023 year, the relevant corporate rate, and also the amount of capital that it expects to raise in the relevant year. So the Commissioner will then make an allocation of credits to the entity for the year, and those credits can then be issued by the explorer to eligible investors. Eligible investors are those who have had during the year shares issued to them by the explorer, and those shares are equity interests. The amount of the investment, which dictates the amount of the credits that can be issued to the investor, is determined by the amount that is paid up on the shares during the relevant period. Because of the reference within the legislation to paid up amount, where the accounting does not reflect the increase to paid up share capital, there is a question as to whether the investment is eligible. So for example, employees who exercise options. So that's an area where further advice should be taken. The issue of credits themselves incurs after the lodgement of the income tax return for the relevant year. So for example, credits that are allocated in applications from June 2022 are issued to investors who invested in either the year ended 30 June 2022 or 2023, but issued after lodgement of the June 2023 income tax return. Where the number of credits generated is less than those issued, For example, where the Explorer has overestimated its expenditure or capital raise. Credits can be carried forward in certain circumstances, but there are particular provisions, however, which set out the order of issue of the credits between the current year and prior year investors. And those rules can be quite complex. And therefore, where an entity does have carry forward credits from a prior year, it's important to ensure that they're issued in the correct order, or it may invalidate the entire issue. The amount of the offset available to each investor corresponds to the exploration entity's tax rate multiplied by the investment. So if the investment was $100 and the relevant tax rate is 26%, the amount of the offset available to the investor is $26. As the credits are issued after the end of the year, it may be that some investors need to go back and amend an already filed tax return. Entities which issue exploration credits are required to provide notice of the issue to the investors in the approved form, and the ATO hasn't provided an approved form as such. However, under the predecessor to the JMEI, the approved form required investors to be notified of the exploration entity's name, its ABN, the date of issue of the exploration credits, the income year in which the investor should include them in their tax return, and also the amount of the credit issued. The notification also needs to include a statement that the issue complies with the relevant legislation. If an entity is allocated more credits than it is able to issue, these credits can be carried forward for 1 year under certain circumstances, after which they lapse and they can no longer be issued to the investors. At that point, the exploration entity needs to notify the ATO. And it's important to note that the generating of the credits itself is what gives rise to the reduction in the Explorer's carry forward losses. So where credits expire, the Explorer will also lose the benefit of the losses that they gave up. So while there are some real benefits to participating in the incentive, there are also some traps that can trip entities up. And so for those who wish to apply for the incentive, it will be prudent to get advice in advance of the 1 June submission opening so that the application is ready to go on that date. Of course, please contact your RSM advisor if you would like any further information. And once again, many thanks for your time. I hope you have a great day. Yours in tax, Belinda.